Where does it come from? How does God work in it, through it? We talked about where work comes from. We discovered that work is a created thing. It's not just something that we've invented on our own. It's not inherently bad, but it is sometimes something that distracts us from what the good things are. We talked about our purpose in work, and then last week, Pastor Heather led us through pitfalls in work, things that we can avoid or look out for, that we can get stuck in when it comes to our productivity mindset versus our flourishing mindset. And this week, we're going to talk about a little bit further flourishing at work, and in particular, this idea of rest. How many of you enjoy going on vacation? How many of you have planned a vacation for this year? How many of you are hoping somebody plans your vacation for you this year and bankrolls it? Come on. Come on. It's getting to that time of year where we're hoping that, dare I say it, summer is actually here, and we can have some adventures, and we can have some different pace of life or rhythm, this idea of rest that we're pursuing and we're running after. I get that. I understand it. There's 7 people in our household, and trying to figure out what is restful for all 7 of us is completely challenging. Several years ago, we were living in central Alberta. We decided, hey, this could be a great idea. We're going to book a VRBO, an Airbnb-style cottage in the mountains. We're going to go to this mountain house. We're going to have this restful area and space, time together as a family. It's going to be beautiful. We showed up at the space. We quickly discovered none of the windows have blinds. So in central Alberta, during the summer, the sun rises at about 5:45 a.m. and it sets at about 11:45 p.m. And so we spent the next several days fighting rest. One of my favorite moments from that time together is this one that I'm going to show you on screen. Layla fell asleep at dinner. She was so tired, having resisted rest, trying to reason with like a 3-year-old, in the middle of the morning at 5:45 when you haven't slept, please just lay down, go to bed, close your eyes. But Dad, the sun's up. I don't care that the sun is up. I care that you are up. And if you don't put yourself down, I'm going to put you down. Or something like that. Like hypothetically, a conversation happens. It's funny, it's ironic, it's interesting, and yet it's so indicative of each one of us and the way that we fight our own rest. Rest is one of those things that we don't have a great framework for, and so what we're going to try and do today is redefine what rest is from a Christ-like biblical framework, and then discover how you and I can enter into God's rest, this rest that we are invited into, in order to flourish in the other areas of our lives. That's what we're going to be doing. If you got a Bible with you, please turn with me. Mark chapter 2, verses 23 through 28. We're going to dive into that text, read it together, psychoanalyze it, have a lot of fun, learn a little bit, be convicted by Jesus, go home and have dinner. Yeah? Sound good? Let's go. One Sabbath day, as Jesus was walking through some grain fields, his disciples began breaking off heads of grain to eat. But the Pharisees said to Jesus, "Look, why are they breaking the law by harvesting grain on the Sabbath?" Jesus said to them, "Haven't you ever read in the scriptures what David did when he and his companions were hungry? They went into the house of God during the days of when Abiathar was high priest and broke the law by eating the sacred loaves of bread that only the priests are allowed to eat. He also gave some to his companions." Then Jesus said to them, "The Sabbath was made to meet the needs of the people, and not the people to meet the requirements of the Sabbath. So the Son of Man is Lord, even over the Sabbath." Lots to understand here. We're going to talk about 3 different things from this text, get a little background context and understanding, and discover more about Sabbath and rest. The first thing is this: rest is a gift. Rest is a gift. It doesn't always feel like it, but rest is a gift. Right now, we are getting ready to celebrate our youngest Frizzell's double-digit era. In a couple of weeks, he moves from 9 to age 10. And so part of that celebration has included stitching together a list of gifts that he is required to receive on his birthday, okay? If you get him something that is not on the list, it does not count. That's not my rules. Those are his rules, okay? If you want to see the list, everything is Pokemon, Walmart, and Bakugans, okay? There you go. It's amazing. Now, what happens at these birthday celebrations at our house, maybe it happens at your house, people bring gifts, and when you get those gifts, there's a little bit of a celebration, usually about 2 minutes, and then we forget about those gifts for about 2 years, and then they resurface 2 years later and be like, oh, cool, could we sell this? And we try and make some money. Okay, sometimes that's our mindset with this idea of rest. In some way, shape, or form, we have seen it as a badge of honor where we continue to deplete ourselves for the sake of something else. It could be projects at home, project at work, internal work that we're trying to do. Could be hobbies. We want to make sure that we have time for our hobbies. And so instead of embracing the gift of rest that has been given to us because it wasn't on our list, we abuse it. We misuse it. We neglect it. Now, that's one extreme and one spectrum. Let's talk about the other side. Some of us see this gift of rest as the only thing we were made to do. Well, I haven't had my rest yet. Dude, you have been doing nothing for 4 hours. What does rest look like? About 17 hours of uninterrupted gaming, sleeping, snacking, and napping. Come on. Hypothetically speaking. And so there are ditches. Whenever we come to these topics and these ideas, there are extremes that God invites us to be aware of and not get stuck in. Rest, one perspective, I avoid it at all costs because I have to be productive. I have to be somebody of value to the people around me by the things that I do time and time again. And the other one, I have to be so guarded and so protected that nothing invades my space and my restfulness. I've got to protect my own peace. And yet, we're invited to play in the middle. There's this little snapshot of the story we've read from Jesus' life about Sabbath. This was a big, huge deal in the life of the Jewish community, this concept of rest. Now, they had extrapolated what this looked like from what it was meant to be to what current reality was. Instead of embracing this idea that rest was a gift, they formed a framework about what was permissible and what wasn't permissible, or in other words, what was restful activities and what weren't restful activities that everybody had to abide by in order to engage in true, authentic rest. Sounds restful, doesn't it? It's like when you're planning your vacation and your itinerary for your vacation is fuller than your itinerary when you're not vacating. It's not rest. And this is a tension point. They're walking through grain fields. His disciples are hungry, which happens. How many of you have ever been hungry before? How many of you are hungry right now? How many of you are avoiding rest by taking a nap? Just checking. His disciples are hungry. They're walking through grain fields. They break off the heads of grain. They start eating them. Pharisees are like, wait a minute, that is not permitted. That's not a rest-filled activity, harvesting grain, feeding yourself. When we misunderstand that rest is a gift, we get all sorts of variations of how we define what rest is and how we define what rest isn't. And that's the first thing that we have to understand. Rest isn't something that is a shackle that God gives to us. It's a gift, it's purposeful, and it's intended to help us embrace a Christ-like rhythm in the way that we choose to live. We are not meant or wired to always work. We are not meant or wired to always rest. We have to find the tangible, balanced framework within that concept. It's okay to go to bed with things that aren't done, and it's okay to get up and do some things even when we crave rest. And finding that balance is an intricate, delicate detail. Some of us in this room probably have the mindset that rest has to be earned. Maybe you grew up in a culture or grew up in an environment or grew up internally somehow saying like, no, I have to perform in order to gain this gift. Listen, I got to tell you, my 10-year-old, soon-to-be 10-year-old, on his birthday, has done nothing but turn 10 on that day. He will receive a gift, and let me tell you, he has done nothing to earn that gift. like nothing to earn that gift. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I could say he's done the opposite. And yet he will get a gift because we celebrate who he is. Rest is not earned, it's given. Rest is not earned, it is given. God says to us that we need to learn about rest. Not our version of rest, his version of rest. Well, where does his version of rest come from? In the creation narrative, in the beginning, the outset of our world, here's what we discover. God is intentional. God is masterfully creating for 6 days consecutively. And then on the seventh day, he chooses to rest. That rest looks like enjoying all that he has created. Rest is tethered to enjoyment. When you wake up from a good rest, a nap, or a long sleep, it should be something that is like, oh, man, that was good. It's just what I needed. When we have a vacation or a break from the regular pace of life, or a break from parenting, or a break from grandparenting, or a break from our spouse, or a break from a friendship, whatever it might look like, it should be cup-filling or bucket-filling experience because rest is a gift. There's a second thing about rest in this text and the story, broader narrative of the life of the nation of Israel that we have to understand. And it's this: rest is an invitation. Rest is an invitation. I already spoke about at the outset of creation how God kind of ordered this concept of rest. Work hard, play hard. Rest, enjoy, recreate, or recreate. Recreation is about recreating right-ordered rhythms that are designed to help us flourish. Rest is an invitation. From that outset of how God designed the world to live, it deteriorated from there. It got made really complex over time. And the Bible in the Old Testament follows one nation's story in particular, the nation of Israel. And over the duration of their history, what we discover is moments where they understand this concept of rest and moments when they do not. I want to catch up all of us into one period of time where they find themselves as an entire nation in slavery by another people group. They're in Egypt. They're in Egypt, and the Egyptians have seen this community, this large community of Israelites, as an opportunity to get some things done in their country. I'm always fascinated when archaeologists and scientists try to uncover how the pyramids were made. Read the Bible, you're going to see a couple of million people that were in slavery for over 400 years that were used as a workforce to get all that work done. In fact, during that time period, this idea of rest was entirely foreign. There were 7-day work weeks. Every single day, making bricks, moving bricks, building stuff, getting beat if you're not doing it right, if you're not producing enough, if you're not measuring up to these standards that your overseers had for you. They lived for that for over 400 years. So 4 generations of the absence of rest. During that time, they're crying out to God, Yahweh, who they serve, please deliver us from this tyranny, deliver us from this chaos, deliver us from this restlessness. And God does. He intervenes. He elevates Moses and Aaron and Miriam and others to lead this people group out of this restless environment, this restless space. The first thing that he does is he reminds them of rest. He reminds them of where provision truly comes from. He reminds them of the order of things in which God has created the world. That we are to embrace this gift of rest. Rest being an invitation that God has got the control and we don't have to manage it. So imagine this. For the entirety of your lifetime, however old you are right now, that all you've ever known is consistent work every day, day in, day out, no breaks. No Christmas, no holidays, no nothing else but work, 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 work. It's all you know. It's probably become a part of your identity. And then somebody says, no, you know what? Rest is actually an invitation. I want you to stop doing for one day so that you can recognize where true provision comes from. They leave this environment. They're wandering around in the wilderness. They don't know where their meals are going to come from. God supplies heavenly bread that rains down, and they can gather up and eat. And when they complain that bread is not enough, he provides quail. Rest is an invitation from our Creator where we can discover where true provision actually comes from. Some of us in this room think it's from our own merit and our own efforts and our own energy that we get certain outcomes. Friends, let me tell you this. God has given you your capacity to have energy and effort, your capacity for intelligence, your capacity for work. But don't mistake for one moment that all of that comes from you. It does not. And a purposed, disciplined embrace of rest recognizes that there's a deeper invitation here. An invitation to know that God is the true provider. That God is the one that sustains you. That God is the one that will deliver you from moments of restlessness. I'll tell you what, I'm a manager right now. I have people that work for me, work with me. I am deeply passionate about this idea of rest. I'm also deeply and equally as passionate about this idea of work. And I'll tell you what, they have to be married together in a way that's sustainable. If one of my staff would say to me, you know what, I need a rest day. It's like, okay, I can understand that. If that's the excuse for 7 days in a row, I call that a vacation. If that's an excuse for 45 days in a row, we've got an issue. We are made to work, but we are also made to rest. We have to understand that rest is a gift, and rest is an invitation to let God be God in our lives. Now, I get it. It's like, well, Jason, I've got 52 items on my to-do list. How do I just offer that to God and say, hey, change the oil in my vehicle, God? Sometimes it's about priorities. I grew up hearing this phrase from my parents, and maybe you heard this phrase from your parents, or maybe you are hearing this phrase from your parents, or you're the parent saying this phrase. If you can get it done today, get it done today, because you don't know what tomorrow brings. There's a healthy mindset in that, and there's an unhealthy one. Let me tell you this. Whatever you get done today, there will still be stuff to do tomorrow. Let's just talk about laundry for a moment, okay? I can't tell you how many times I think I'm caught up on laundry. I'm caught up in laundry in my household, and then another load of towels shows up. Or the kid comes from outside and they're muddy from head to toe, and I'm like, that's not going to work. And even if you employ the garden hose, you still got to wash some stuff. So yes, it's good to stay on top of the laundry, because if you're not doing it consistently, man, it's chaos on one day. Little by little, by little by little, and you get it done. But it's never really, truly finished. There's always more to do. So I understand that. I get that. I live it. That's the tension point in which we are in. There's always opportunity, maybe in your workplace, for overtime. Let's talk about retirement. People are like, yeah, well, I retired. Sometimes the people that I know who are retired are a lot more busy than the people who aren't retired. They got stuff to do. Everybody wants a piece of your time. Oh, you got nothing to do. You could do this for me. Particularly if you have children who have children. Oh, sweet, you're retired. You can be my child care. How many of you are in that space of life? How many of you want to be in that space of life? Just give me a hand, because we're looking for child care. It's enjoyable until it isn't. Rest is a gift. Rest is an invitation to recalibrate the way we choose to live. and the work will never be done because there's always tomorrow. So work hard today and trust God for tomorrow. Better said, work hard today, trust God for today and for tomorrow. The Pharisees were so upset that the disciples were feeding themselves because it broke their rules and their regulations. It had nothing to do with the rules and the regulations. It had everything to do with this internal heart posture that had been distorted and misaligned inside of them. To which Jesus responds, listen, Sabbath is made for humans. Humans weren't made for the Sabbath. In other words, if you are living your weekly life, daily rhythms by rules and regulations and the absence of God's presence, man, you are living a lesser brand of life. Maybe you need to be reminded that God is inviting you into something deeper, something more, something meaningful beyond what you know. Trusting that he can take care of the things that are undone in your world today and tomorrow. There's a third thing that we learn from rest in this concept, from this text in particular. Rest is a weapon. I know, it's an interesting word choice. How is rest a weapon? In its proper space, rest can be an ally and not an adversary. I remember when my grandpa was getting older, one of the things that we would consistently do as his dementia kept growing is we would invite him to sit down and take a rest. And if you've ever been around somebody who has dementia, you'll know that sometimes they can get a little bit agitated, particularly with people telling them what to do. And I can remember this one vivid moment sitting in my living room watching my uncle try to guide my grandfather to have a nap in the chair, and he just said and blurted out, he's like, I'm always being asked to rest. Give me something of value to do. I'm already rested. There's purpose behind our rest. It's preparation for what's next. It's preparation for what's next. It's a weapon. They use rest in sports all of the time. My son, Cannon, has been a sprinter previously, and he's learned the power of exerting yourself and the power of rest. When it's too early to get ready to run your race, and when it's too late to get ready to run your race. He's learned that, I need to have the proper fuel and the proper intake. Not only in what I'm eating, but also in how I am readying my body for what's next. Rest is a weapon. In this story that we see with Jesus and his disciples and the Pharisees, we're learning that rest is a weapon in a negative sense. We're learning that the Pharisees are like, no, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. They have a distorted view of the purpose of rest. They think that rest is about not doing anything. And yet Jesus is saying, wait a minute. This is not about rules and regulations. This is about intended purpose. They were hungry. They needed to eat. They're going to eat. So when God invites you into a pocket or a moment of rest, guess what? He's inviting you to do what it is that you are made to do. Laugh, run, jump, play, sing, listen, talk, eat. Now, we can overindulge in all of those things. We can overeat. It's bad for us when we overeat. It's also bad for us when we undereat. We can overindulge in sleep. We can overindulge in recreation. We can overindulge in our pursuit of vacation to the point where we become a liability in the rest of our lives. We're invited to consider what it looks like to weaponize this gift, this invitation that God gives to us in a healthy and responsible way. And the weapon is not about making others less than. It's about preparing ourselves for what is to come. When you face a season of grief, you will quickly uncover that the first thing to disappear is your rest. If you've lost someone or something that means a great deal to you, you have, at the moments of your greatest vulnerability, you'll have memories or questions or thoughts or even lies flood your mind, trying to steal your rest. And when your rest is stolen, your perspective is distorted. And what happens is, instead of good things being squeezed out of you, it's the absence of that. And so one of the things that is helpful to ask when people are in a season of grief is this: have you had something to eat today? Did you have a good sleep? Or in other cases, did you have a good nap? Rest and fuel help us to get ready for what is to come. Because guess what? Even if we're not doing that well, it's still coming. We're still going to face it. We're still going to have that challenge. And so this invitation, this gift that God has given us, we're invited to understand that it is a tool or a weapon to help us in our moment of need. I want to get real practical here. I want to talk about it from a daily, weekly, monthly, and annual perspective. Our bodies are wired for rest daily. What does this look like? Sleep. That's space number one. Space number one to diagnose. Are you sleeping enough? Well, what is enough? What's enough look like, Jason? Okay, statistically speaking, somewhere around 7 uninterrupted hours in an evening or in a morning, depending on your work shift rhythm, is the ideal scenario. Now, some of us are biologically built different. We need less than that. Some of us need more than that. At this point in time of your life, hopefully you have an idea of the way you're wired. And if that is changing in the moment, that's the first thing that you need to understand and diagnose. Sometimes you need external supports in that. Your family doctor, a health therapist, even a nutritionist. I guarantee they're going to ask you in that first 2-3 minutes, are you sleeping well? If you're always having to use a sleep aid to get asleep and stay asleep, I'm telling you right now that something is agitating internally or externally and stealing your rest, and you need to deal with that. If you're not able to get that 7-hour framework consistently, there's something going on internally or externally that needs your attention. Now, I know some of us are getting up in the middle of the night to make that trip to the bathroom. I get that. Again, if we're talking every single hour, there's something that needs some fix in there that you need to pay attention to. That's step number one. Discovering, am I getting enough sleep as a part of my rest, as a part of my rhythm of life? Am I getting enough? If you're not, pay attention to it. My guarantee is there's probably something internally, and it's probably pain-related that you haven't yet processed, that is haunting you and robbing you of your sleep. Hence the outside support scenario. Weekly, what does this look like? Man, you should run hard and work hard 6 days a week. Now, I am not advocating for you to have a job where you are paid for 6 days a week work. I'm not advocating for a bunch of overtime. That's something for you to sort out in your family rhythm and stuff like that. Here's what it looks like for my family rhythm. Sunday to Thursday, man, I am all in. I am all in Sunday to Thursday. This past week, it wasn't even Wednesday, and I had put in 35 hours. I'm investing, I'm connecting, I'm working hard. Thursday is like my Friday at times. Man, if you're having an in-depth conversation with me on Thursday afternoon, the Lord bless you, I am not going to remember it. but I'm working hard. Then Friday is a flex day. Friday's a flex day. I'm doing all the things that maybe I haven't had time yet to do, work-related or even family-related, that up until that point in my week. And then Saturday. Saturday is filled with the things that fuel my soul. Walking, talking, watching birds, eating good food, laughing, riding my bike, saying no to the kids. Joy to my soul. All these wonderful things regularly. Now, in my world, my calendar isn't always easy to navigate. We've got kids that work different shifts here, there, or whatever. We've got weddings that happen on Saturdays. We've got funerals that happen throughout that. And so you have to massage your schedule and ensure that you've got a healthy balance between rest and work. So sometimes that Saturday needs to become a Friday because that Saturday is going to be a work day. And so finding that rhythm and what it looks like for you is super helpful. If you're never creating space in your regular calendar to enjoy what God has created, then man, you are missing out. And this is one of the things that Jesus points out to the Pharisees. They're so fixated on this idea that his disciples are harvesting grain. They don't see that the grain was meant to be harvested, eaten, and enjoyed by the God who designed everything. They missed it, probably because they weren't sleeping well. There's daily rest. There's weekly rest. There should be monthly rest. There should be quarterly rest. Think of nature. Here in Canada, we have the gift of 4 seasons. Some of them we don't like. Some of them we really like. And even nature has these rhythms of rest, producing and relief, and producing and relief, and producing and relief. We got to remember, as John 15 says, that everything that is produced in us and through us comes from what vine we're attached to. And if Jesus is not the vine you're attached to, then whatever you're producing is empty. You want a life that matters. You want a life of value and importance and significance. Remain in Christ. Be rooted in him. Abide in him. One time I was on this pastor's retreat, and it was a month of June several years ago, probably 8 at this point, maybe even 9. And we were zipping out to a prayer retreat space, and I heard this invitation from the Lord, take your bike, we're going to have some fun. I said, okay, let's do that. Man, I had the best 4 days. Jesus and I went on bike rides, we ran, we swam in a freezing cold river, we threw rocks at stuff. It was so enjoyable. I remember coming home and chatting about it with Bonnie, and she's like, hey, what did you learn? I was like, Jesus is fun and he likes to play. And she's like, really? I gave up 4 days solo parenting for you to learn that Jesus is fun and he likes to play. Perfect. Friends, Jesus is fun and he likes to play. He's made recreation on purpose. Are you embracing it? Are you hearing his invitation? Some of you love to ski. Awesome. God bless. Some of you love to run when things aren't chasing you. Amazing. God bless. Whether it's kayaking, hockey, walking, playing a game of cards, eating some great food, enjoying company, sitting in nature, having a nap on a hammock, having a good beverage after a long, hard day's work, cutting the grass. There are some people, in fact, there's a young couple I'm working with right now, getting in preparation for their marriage, where they're fighting over who gets to cut the grass. Not who has to cut the grass, who gets to cut the grass. Okay? There are weird ways that God has wired us all over the place. So what are the things that God has made you for that you really enjoy? Have them in balance. Your rest should never be in neglect of your work, and your work should never be in neglect of your rest. They have to work together. They're symbiotic in nature. I dare you to do this week. The people around you who are closest to you, ask them this question. Hey, do you think I rest and work well? And then buckle up. You might not appreciate what they have to say, but their perspective could be helpful in everything. And then annually, man, you should have some point in time in your calendar year. I'm not talking about like taking a vacation to like European vacation or river cruise or whatever, where you just create space to enjoy and to rejuvenate and to refuel your soul. Maybe that's camping. God bless you if you love camping. I'm a glamper at heart, okay? Whatever it is, take that chunk of time. We have built this into our work rhythm here in North America. For those of you who are like, I don't take vacation, I bank my hours and I get paid out. Good for you. How's the condition of your soul? Are you bitter, angry, frustrated, short-tempered? Have you lost the ability to be gentle? If so, then maybe it's not worth the extra $2,500. Maybe you take the vacation, because rest is a gift and it's an invitation, and you can learn that it's a weapon that God is giving you to prepare you for the next battle. Because the battle's going to come whether you're ready for it or not. And rest is the way that we flourish in the midst of the chaos. I wonder if Jesus was really hopeful that the Pharisees would have seen that day. Particularly when he says that he's the Lord even of the Sabbath. Meaning he's the one that can design and dictate what is permissible and what isn't. And so if you're confused here today about life, about love, about happiness, about what you're supposed to do next, let me just say this. Look to Jesus. Look to Jesus. Let him guide you. And that will be enough. Just have a sense here today that there are many of us in this space that are restless about something. So how we're going to close this section of time here together is to pray specifically for restlessness. Strategically for restlessness. Some of us are haunted by things that keep us up at night, that interrupt our rest. Some of us dive deeper into work to avoid rest because rest is painful. Or when we're resting, all these things that we haven't dealt with begin to surface. And we're like, ooh, I don't like that. Push it back down. Got to stay busy. And I want to pray specifically for those of us that deal with that. And so in a moment, I'm going to start my time of prayer, and then I'm going to invite those that are feeling restless in whatever level, and you don't have to qualify it to get prayed for, to just stand. And I will pray specifically for you that you would learn to enter into God's rest in this next season of your life, no matter what is happening or what is to come. Sound good? Let me pray. Jesus, I know that the world in which we live is restless. It's always changing, always evolving, always moving in some way. And God, there's such beauty in that, and then there's such exhaustion in that as well. I pray, Lord, that we'd be able to take a page out of Scripture in Psalm 62, verse 1, where David says to you that his battle and his victory comes from you. The rest that we need, the restlessness that is within us, is satiated by you in your presence, no matter what it might be. God, over these next few moments, I'm inviting people here in person or even online to stand as an indicator that there's something that is disturbing their rest. There's something that's making them restless. Lord, if that's them, I'm asking them to stand right now in this moment. I want to pray specifically for those that are battling with restlessness. Jesus, I thank you that you are never far from where we are. So for those of us that have declared in this space and even online that rest is a foreign concept or something is disturbing us from learning and embracing rest, I pray specifically that over the next 48 hours, you would begin to peel back the layers of understanding on what next steps these people can embrace. Maybe that's the idea of doing nothing for an hour and just sitting and listening, having a good cup of coffee or a good cup of tea or another beverage and reading scripture. Maybe it's just sitting in silence. Maybe it's going for a walk. I don't know, but you do. God, maybe there are bigger things that these people are working through, a breakdown in a relationship, an absence of provision, an uncertainty when it comes to what might be next, a medical challenge that is unexpected and uninvited, and yet it's still a part of their reality. So God, I pray that your peaceful rest would invade their mind, their heart, and their spirit so that they can trust you even in the midst of this next unknown. God, you are a God that works hard. You are a God that rests hard. You redeem all things. And so I'm asking that you would redeem our concept and our framework of work. You would redeem our concept and our framework of rest and realign it to be like yours. Would you bless and protect us? Make your face shine upon us. Be gracious to us. Grant us your favor and your peace in Jesus' name.